What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and it's the end of the year, so I thought this is the perfect time to do a villain tier list here. We are ranking every single villain in Marvel Champions by how difficult they are. This is a power tier list here for every single scenario in Marvel Champions, and this is just after Synthezoid Smackdown has already released. So we do have the new Vision scenario and the new She-Hulk scenario. I don't even know where she is. She's somewhere on here, but yeah, we have both. Oh, she's right over here. So we're gonna be ranking every single villain, in the game by how difficult they are, and we have some new tiers here than what I've normally done. So I've updated this a little bit here, and I'm really happy with these like tier brackets. So let's go over this really quickly. I do want to mention that this is a tier list for true solo and multiplayer. So this is not just strictly a true solo tier list. A lot of villains, in my opinion, are the exact same at higher player counts and in true solo, like how difficult they are. But there are some villains that will change, and I will factor that in, if that happens. We'll also be evaluating every single villain here without any modules, right? So like just their bare bones set, and then if you add in modules like the recommended module or something like that, you may raise the difficulty up or down depending on what you do. But I'll just be looking at each scenario without any modules here. Okay, so for tier brackets right here, we have the Omega level threat. That's gonna be like the S tier, the most difficult villains in the game. And I'm gonna keep this list, pretty small there. And then this is difficult right here. So difficult is just gonna be, A tier, just strong, difficult villains. For the B tier here, okay, so here's where it gets a little bit different. So right here, these are challenging villains, but they are susceptible to status lock. I think a status lock, it's very effective in true solo, but it's also very effective at higher player counts as well, just to block off activations. I think at 2 player counts is actually even stronger because you can stun and confuse a villain, and you have one player being alter ego, one player being hero form every single turn, and just keep on flipping. Like both players, flip back and forth like that and trigger all their alter ego actions, trigger all their hero actions, and so forth. So yeah, status lock can be very powerful. Next would be the swinginess here. Okay, so this tier is a little bit weird. These are villains that are very, very swingy. So like if you face them at their most difficult, they could go higher up and be like, even like Omega level threats. But oftentimes they'll be just around here, in that B tier level. And then sometimes they might even be a little bit weaker, like in the C tier or something like that, right? So this is kind of like a B tier equivalent. So like, I think swingy isn't necessarily weaker than like challenging but susceptible to status lock. But like these villains here in this tier are like consistently more difficult than villains in this tier. But the ones in this tier can jump up really high if you get like really bad luck with them, because they're just very swingy villains. They can feel very difficult or very easy depending on your luck and depending on the modules with this scenario. And then next we have the C tier here. So this is not a big challenge. These villains here are like, they're not like super weak or anything like that, but they're not very difficult either. And then lastly, we have the final tier, which is going to be the D tier, and these are just the easiest villains in the game, just very, very weak villains. And I also want to mention, I'm going to be evaluating every single villain here for expert mode. So this is a expert mode tier list here, just like regular, expert 1, facing on their stage 2 and 3. Some villains have a stage 3 and 4 instead for the expert mode. So that's just going to be what this list is all about. Most villains, I think, translate pretty well from standard to expert mode. There are a few variations where like a villain is a lot easier on standard or like a lot more difficult on expert. But most of the time, I think that it's pretty similar across both sides. Okay, let's just go ahead and jump into it here. Okay, I think I want to kind of like establish what swingy means. So let's go ahead and rate or rank my least favorite scenario in all Marvel Champions. You guys probably already know what I'm going to say, but Nebula, I hate Nebula. This is not a like favorites tiers or anything like that. It's going to be the power ranking. Nebula can definitely be Omega level threat. And I think that if like you have like the correct encounter cards for her, she can be the strongest villain in the entire game of Marvel Champions. However, there are some games where she's super duper easy and you just beat her in like 3 rounds and it's not that much of a challenge. So she can be very easy as well. So she is, what I consider a very swingy villain. I think that putting her in the B tier is kind of like a fair ranking for her because she can oftentimes feel easier than that and oftentimes feel more difficult than that. So she is a very swingy villain. I really like this tier list here for all the swingy villains. So I'll put Nebula right there. And yeah, the thing is with her techniques, the first technique that she reviews each round gains Surge. surge. If you get lucky, you don't have any techniques, then she won't surge. That's fine. If you have bad luck, she'll surge every single turn and just stack those techniques and just like it's just disgusting, guys. So yeah, she can definitely ramp and be the worst thing in the world, or be not that bad. So I think that that is a fair ranking for her. Okay, let's go ahead and rank someone else here. Let's do a Civil War scenario. I'm gonna do, let's do Iron Man. Okay, so Iron Man, I think he's actually quite a challenging scenario. I'm gonna put him in the A tier, difficult. So he is, you know, one of the new scenarios that was introduced in Civil War. His extra mode is stage 3 and 4, and unlike a lot of like other villains, he's not susceptible to status lock, at least on that 4th stage. Now, one thing with that is that all the Civil War villains, they cannot be burst down from like on the flip, right? So one of my favorite things to bypass that final stage. So like let's take for example like a villain like Venom Goblin, for example, right? So Venom Goblin, I don't even know where he's at. Venom Goblin is somewhere on this list, but Venom Goblin, he has Stalwart on his final stage, and on his second stage, and if you're doing extra mode, that is the first stage that you face, he has Steady. So you can kind of like put some statuses on him a little bit. Steady's still kind of like difficult. For me personally, if a villain has Steady, I would not consider them susceptible to status lock, right? So Venom Goblin, you know, he has Steady on stage 2, but you can still at least stun and confuse him if you put 2 status cards of the same type on him. But what I want to do is I want to flip him and immediately burst down stage 3, so I don't even have to deal with him having Stalwart on the, you know, that final stage. The thing with the Civil War leaders is that each time that you defeat them, they have a one feud here on their final, you know, their 4th and final stage, where you deal each player an encounter card, and Iron Man can no longer take damage this phase. So essentially, you have to take this extra encounter card, and you have to deal with his Steady on the final stage. So then that makes these villains a lot more difficult. So I do think that Iron Man is a very difficult villain. I like all the stuff that he does with his tech attachment. He gets extra schemes for each tech attachment that he has, and then the tech attachment gives him like extra, you know, stat bonuses, like extra attack and stuff like that as well. So yeah, he is definitely, in my opinion, a difficult villain and a worthy challenge for sure. Okay, let's rank another villain here. Let's do like a classic one. We'll do Mutagen Formula Green Goblin, if I can find him here on this list. I don't know how this is like ordered here. Where is... Okay, you know what? Let's just do Klaw, because I see Klaw here, so I think that he's the one that I should do right here. So Klaw is gonna go in the B tier here. He's a challenging villain, right? He's definitely no slouch. Even though he did come in the core set, he is not as easy as like a lot of people would think if you were to like not face him. And he does, you know, present a nice challenge there. So I'm gonna put him here in the B tier. But the one thing with him is that if you stun and confuse lock him, he becomes very, very easy, right? That's kind of like the way to like maneuver like around him, just make him like an easy villain to take down. So that's kind of like an easy weakness for Klaw. But other than that, if you don't status lock him, you know, he does get an additional boost card each time that he attacks you. So that can also ramp up. And he has high variance with that, right? He has an attack of 2 on his stage 3, but getting 2 boosts, they could be 2 boosts of 0, so just hitting for 2, or 2 boosts of 3, so it's hitting for like 8 damage, right? So, you know, he can swing for a lot. You don't really know what he's going to do with that. And he has pretty high scheme with a scheme stat of 3. So he is challenging, but very susceptible to status lock. Okay, let's do another villain here. I think I'll just do one that I see, right? So let's rank Crossbones. Okay, Crossbones is... he is not a strong villain. He's either going to go in very weak or not a big challenge. I mean, he has some nice weapon stuff that he can, you know, do on you. But, you know, he has 3 main scheme stages. So, like, you have a lot of breathing room on the threat. And then he also has very low hit points. So you can very easily rush him down as well. I'm going to put him in not a big challenge here, because I think that, you know, he could do some surprising stuff on you and do a lot of damage with that weapons deck. And the main scheme threat thresholds are kind of low, so like he can probably pop each one with like a scheme activation if he gets like a decent amount of boost icons on them. So like, you know, he can pop, you know, them pretty easily. It's just that there's 3, so like even if he pops one, it's not a big deal. So I'm putting him here for now. I may move him down, but I think that not a big challenge is a fair spot for Crossbones, probably at the end of this tier right here. Okay, let's rank Mojo. Mojo's a villain that I thought was very difficult, but I think that with this new tier here, I'm going to drop him down. I think he's more challenging than Klaw, but, you know, he can easily just be stats locked, right? You can stun and confuse him to death in true solo at higher player counts. You can do the thing where like you have at least one player, in Alter Ego, at least one player in hero form, and then you stun and confuse him. I mean, you cancel 2 activations every single villain phase, which is going to do a lot, right? The cool thing with him is that he's kind of on a timer, right? So you do want to kind of like burst him down a little bit quickly, but like he still gives you the breathing room and time to build out. He has a lot of threat threshold, on his main schemes, even though he does add a lot of threat as well. But if you build out enough, you can easily throw it away, off his schemes. So he is challenging, but if you stats lock him, I mean, he's not going to be as much of a big deal anymore. Okay, let's do, oh, here is Green Goblin. Okay, let's do Green Goblin because I see him here. So he also goes into this B tier. I'm going to put him in between Mojo and Klaw. And I do think that Iron Man is a more difficult villain than all these three guys right here. He's for sure, in my opinion, more difficult than Mutagen Formula and Klaw. But Mojo, depending on if you stats lock or not, you can kind of like argue back and forth on these two. But the thing is, Iron Man, you have to take that flip where he's going to do that encounter card, and he ramps up very hard too on that stage 4. So Green Goblin here, he's a good challenge. He has a lot of minions in his encounter set. Whenever you review him, he's going to do 3 encounter cards on a stage. However, the way that I always want to face this scenario is that the moment that I flip him to stage 3, he deals me 3 face-on encounter cards, and I just kill him and finish him on that stage. I think that's why he's a lot easier than Iron Man, who after you flip him to this final stage, he cannot take damage anymore, right? I think that that's a very, very cool, it's a new mechanic that they're recently introducing, but I think it's a cool way to make villains more challenging, because being forced to take that encounter card is more difficult than even dealing 3 face on encounter cards, because I can easily just burst down this 3rd stage, in one go. So yeah, I think that is a fair spot for Mutagen Formula. He's a lot of people's favorite test villain, same with Klaw. These two guys are known as 2 of the best test villains in the game, Marvel Champions. For me personally, that actually goes to Iron Man. I think that Iron Man is a very good test villain and my personal favorite. I think it's fun to have Iron Man help test out, your decks as well, right? Okay, let's do another villain here. Let's rank Collector 2. So this is Collector 2 Escape the Museum. This is the adventure type of scenario. I'm going to put this in not a big challenge. And I'll put it in front of Crossbones just because you do have to have a lot of threat removal to finish the scenario. Basically, you have 3 main schemes. You have to remove the threat on all of them to win a scenario, right? And then, yeah, he's not really, he's pretty straightforward. He's not going to do that much. I think he's more difficult if you put in, his recommended modules. But without that, he's not that much of a challenge. He's a pretty straightforward, adventure type of scenario where you want to escape from the museum. And very thematic and fun, but we're not ranking on that. We're ranking on how strong the villain is. Okay, let's do the other Collector counterpart here. So we have Collector 1, Infiltrate the Museum. I know a lot of people absolutely hate this scenario. For me, I don't hate him, but he goes in swinging for me. He's similar to Nebula. Like, he can be an Omega level threat, like super duper challenging if you have like his recommended modules and you get those nasty like encounter cards from that. He can be very, very difficult, but especially at higher player counts, he becomes a little bit more manageable. And I think that that's what makes him swingy. If he doesn't get those encounter cards and he gets like more chill encounter cards, he can actually be quite easy and actually drop down to the C tier. And yeah, you could just kind of like just do damage and just defeat him, right? So I think because of that swinginess, he goes here in like this like, other B tier right here. Because these are the 2 B tiers that I got going on. So, all right, let's do, well, I do want to talk about his main mechanic. So if you have any cards that are in play, any card that was in play, whenever they leave play, they instead go into the collection. And I think that this is particularly rough in True Solo, because in True Solo, you can only remove 1 card, every single player phase. At higher player counts, you can remove more cards. So like not everyone has to be removing a card, which is nice. And you can also have someone defend or something like that as well. So you don't have to have allies chump block either. And someone else can focus on threat. So I think the higher player counts is where he becomes more easy as well. So that's kind of my thoughts of why he goes into this tier. Next, let's rank, I don't know, who should we rank, guys? Let's do the, actually, I want to do something very weak. Who's very weak? To me, the weakest scenario in the game is, I don't want to say it if I don't see it. Okay, I see it here. Tower defense. So Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive. I mean, I just don't really even know how you can just lose a scenario. I feel like that, I mean, you lose whenever there's like enough damage on the Avengers Tower, but it feels like there's not enough way for them to do damage to the tower. You can flip down, have the one that schemes one of their main schemes, when they scheme out, they actually don't even do damage to Avengers Tower. So like, you know, you're fine flipping down if that's the villain that's going to scheme, right? There's two villains on this scenario, you know, Preston Midnight and Corvus Glaive, but it's very easy to game and just maneuver around it to where you don't lose. So I find it like almost difficult to like try to lose. Like you have to actively spend turns just like allowing them to hit you, or like being an alter ego and letting like the wrong one scheme for you to lose on this scenario. Okay, let's evaluate. Should I do? Okay, let's just do a random villain. We'll just pick here. So we got M.O.D.O.K. M.O.D.O.K, I don't think he's a big challenge. He does have steady, which makes him not as susceptible to status lock, but I don't think that he's on the tier of these villains right here. Yeah, he's definitely a lot easier. I find him super duper easy at like higher player counts. Like for some reason, I'm not sure about the way he scales, but I feel he's almost very weak whenever you get to like 4 player counts. But I think that overall, he's just not a big challenge. I'll put him in front of Crossbones and behind the Collector 2 right here. His mechanic is that you cannot defeat him. Like you can't win this scenario by defeating him unless you first clear off all of the captured like your captured friends, right? You have to free them, and then they become your allies. And then if you defeat M.O.D.O.K after that, then you actually win the scenario. So all you gotta do is clear off all of those counters on there. You know, free them, free those allies, and then you can defeat M.O.D.O.K. But the allies are so powerful, like they help you out a lot. So I think that's what goes in with that. Next, let's rank On the Run here. So no, this is not On the Run. This is On the Run. So On the Run is a scenario that I thought was pretty easy, but I've been shown from gameplay requests that it's more difficult than I thought it was. So I'm gonna put it. I think it actually goes in swingy, because depending on which villain that you get, which Marauder villain, it can be super duper hard or super duper easy, right? You shuffle up that all those Marauder villains, and you face one of them, and you just have that one for the entire scenario. Some of them can be like, you know, a menace, and some of them can just be super easy where you can just chump block and like it doesn't really matter. So depending on which one you get, this can be a lot more difficult. I'm gonna put this one definitely behind Collector though, but yeah, it could definitely be a challenge and be swingy depending on which one. So if you get like a very difficult villain, it could be in like challenging but susceptible to status lock. If you get like an easy villain, it could be like not a big challenge, or even very weak. So I'll put this right here. Let's go ahead and just do Morlock Siege here, the counterpart that also has those Marauders. And this one is pretty easy as well. But I think I'll put it in not a big challenge. Because the thing is, if you get a villain that you don't want, you can just quickly burst that villain down and then like flip it to get a different villain, right? For this one, you have to defeat a certain amount of villains to win. So you get more of the Marauder villains, but you have one that you don't like. You don't have to deal with that one for the entire scenario. So I'll put this one, I think, behind Crossbones. I don't think it's that much of a challenge. Okay, let's evaluate. Let's do Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo, he can get steady. So like, I think he's difficult. I think he's actually a difficult challenge. I don't know what you guys think about that, but for this guy here, you have these environments, and you have to clear off the environment, get those secret counters off, so you can figure out who the M.O.D.O is. And after that happens, then you can like accuse the M.O.D. You know, you find all that, you know, that little mini game of like Clue. And once you do that, you flip Baron Zemo. On the turn you flip him, he ramps it pretty hard because he gets his sword, he gets like a bunch of attack, and he gets extra effects too if he like defeats like a character, like if you chump block with the ally. So anything that like that deters chump blocking, I think is pretty nice. So yeah, I think he goes here. Does he go in front of Iron Man? I think he does. Yeah, he can definitely be a challenge here. Yeah, I think he's a pretty difficult villain here, who you have to take on after you flip him, right? Because you don't flip him by like removing his hit points. You flip him by guessing correctly who the M.O.D.O is. So you have to at least face one turn, at least, of you know, his more ramped up stage, similar to Iron Man villain. I really like the mechanic where you have to take at least one turn of the ramped up stage of the villain, versus being able to just burst him down in one go, like Green Goblin, or like even like Klaw, or Mojo too, right? Okay, let's rank. We're gonna do the 4 Horsemen here. So 4 Horsemen, I think, is a challenge, but like Status Lock just destroys them. I think we'll put them around Mojo here. So I think for these guys here, you want to be an alter ego because they don't show you their effects if you're an alter ego. There's 4 villains, you know, for this scenario, and they're like very susceptible to stat swap. You do have to kind of plan out which one is going to activate, but if it's the one that's going to activate right away, and then you like stun or confuse that one, and then you block out their stats there, you like block the out of active counter from moving as well. So like stats lock just completely drops them. But like if you don't stats lock them, I think that they are more difficult than Green Goblin and Klaw. So I think I'll put them here behind Mojo and in front of Green Goblin and Klaw. All right, let's rank. I'm looking for risky business, but I can't see it, so we're not going to rank it. Oh, I found it. Okay, risky business. I mean, super duper easy. A lot of people think this is the most easy villain in the game. I think that tower defense is the most easy, so I'm put it in front of tower defense, but still definitely not that much of a challenge. One thing with this scenario though is that it can be difficult if you're not gaming it. So if you're constantly flipping Norman Osborn over to Green Goblin side, he's gonna do a lot of indirect damage, and if you're on stage 3, he just does a lot of straight up pure damage, to you. So like you do want to game this scenario. If you don't game it, he's actually gonna be a decent challenge. But if you game it, I mean, he's pretty weak. So I think that this is a fair rank for him. He's not as easy as Proximity Midnight and the tower defense scenario, though. All right, next, let's rank Juggernaut. Juggernaut, okay, so Juggernaut, he has his helmet, and he's very thematic because he's like this brute, and if he schemes out, you don't lose a game. He just attacks you really hard and gets those momentum counters, right? And with his helmet, if he has the helmet on, he's stalwart, so he's not susceptible to status lock. But if you spend 3 resources at the same time, you can flip the helmet, take it off, and then you can status lock him. So this is going to be a weird one, but I'm actually going to put Juggernaut in the challenging but susceptible to status lock. I think he can be a challenge, but you want to just flip the helmet and then you can confuse him and stun him like to death. So like then he's completely neutered. So like he has a star, but I think that it's easy enough to status lock him, through that star that he still kind of belongs in this tier here. Because I don't think that he belongs in this difficult tier. And the question here is he, I'm gonna put him, I think here in front of Green Goblin and Klaw. I think that they're pretty similar, but Juggernaut does hit very hard. And he has overkill as well if he has a helmet. So I think overkill is a fun mechanic that really makes the scenario, more difficult. Green Goblin and Klaw don't naturally have access to overkill. So I think that that's why I'm gonna put Juggernaut a little bit above them. Okay, next scenario let's do Ebony Maw. He easily goes in the swingy tier for me. So basically for him, he has a bunch of spells, and he just like puts them in play, right? He casts them like on your play area, and then each time he activates, you remove a counter from them. So like they're like kind of like a ticking time bomb, which is like pretty cool and thematic. And whenever they go down 0, then the spell explodes. It like does a certain effect. Some of them like Fireball can like do 4 damage to you. Some of them does like 2 damage to all your characters and wipes out all your allies. They all have like different effects. So the reason why he's swinging for me is because, and I always talk about this with Ebony Maw, so you guys have probably heard me say this before, all of his spells have surge. So like technically you could surge like 8 times in one turn, getting all the spells in your game area, which would be like completely the worst thing ever. It's never happened to me, but it's always like my big fear. So I feel like because of that, he can really be super challenging if you like get like a bunch of spells on one turn. But then like if you don't get a bunch of spells on one turn, like he could be very easy, right? So I think swingy is a good spot for him. I'm putting him in front of On the Run though, and then behind the Collector 1 and Nebula. Let's do the new Vision hero. Okay, so Vision here, he's an interesting hero. I actually like his mechanic a lot. So he has the intangible side and the one that's tangible. I forgot the name of that one, but the mass form, right? So it has this dense mass form and the intangible side, right? And basically, right whenever the villain phase begins and you add a threat to the main scheme, you flip the form. So he's constantly changing from intangible in his dense mass form. And when he's in intangible, very thematic to like the hero version of Vision, he takes 1 less damage from all instances of like damage. So if you're attacking him or even doing other sort of damage, he just reduces it by 1. So like he's kind of cool because he kind of prevents rushing if you're on the wrong side, and you have to like wait a turn to whenever he's on the dense mass form to actually like plan on doing damage to him, right? So I think that's pretty interesting. Where does he go for me? I don't think he belongs in a difficult tier though, because he's very easy to build out against, right? If you just take your time building out, he's not putting that much pressure on your hero. So he's not difficult. But the thing is, he's not susceptible to status lock because he has steady on that final stage and you have to deal with it. But the thing is, I think it's not a big challenge, too much of a drop for him though. If I put him here, he's going to be on the top of this tier. I think I'm going to put him, I'm going to break the rule. I'm going to put him here in challenging but susceptible to status lock at the end of this tier. He's not very susceptible to status lock because you do have to deal with his steady stage. But at the same time, I mean, obviously you can status lock him on that stage 3. Same with Iron Man. But he's just not in the difficult tier. So yeah, I'm going to put him right here behind Klaw and Green Goblin. I do think that these scenarios are more difficult than Vision. But I don't think that Vision is just not a big challenge at all. Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and do Spider-Woman next. She is very similar to Vision. I'm gonna put her behind Vision though. I think that they're very, very similar. A lot of these Civil War villains have like similar stuff to each other just because they all have a stage 3 and stage 4. And on their stage 4, whenever you review them, they do an encounter card, and then they cannot take damage, in that phase, right? So for Spider-Woman, she has like she gets like skill counters on like her finesse, and if she builds that up, she gets extra attack. But the thing is, you can just chump block with the ally, like, so like it's fine. Like she doesn't have overkill, so like it's not a big deal for her to have extra attack. And you really game it because like it caps at 3, so you can just keep on letting that build up. She can like stats lock you a lot, which can really deter like rushing down. But if you're just like trying to like, if you're just playing like a regular game, building out like normal, or playing like a temple build, the stats stuff is not that big of a deal. So I think that she's not, that crazy, but she can be a challenge, in that way. She's also not very susceptible to stats lock. So like maybe this is not, I think like I'm gonna say this is like, it's challenging or challenging, but also susceptible to stats lock. I think that's what this tier is gonna be here. Okay. Next, let's evaluate. Let's do Batroc. He's also an adventure type of scenario. I think that he's not a big challenge, but I think he's more difficult than Collector 2. So I'm putting him in front of Collector 2 here. So Batroc, he has 3 main schemes. You clear off all threat to win. Basically, you're like infiltrating AIM Island. You're gonna save, these rescue captives, and when you save them, you need to escape AIM Island, and then like you win the scenario. You cannot win by defeating Batroc, but if you defeat him, you do get to remove threat from the main scheme, which is nice. The thing that makes him more difficult in these scenarios down here is that you don't want to chump block with allies, because each time a character is defeated, including whenever you like defeat a minion, or whenever the villains like defeat an ally, then you have to add threat to the alert level, and then that is a lost condition if there's enough threat on the high alert level. So like that can be annoying, but the thing is, there's no limit to the resource sink where you can just spend resource and dish it out to remove threat from the alert level, right? So like how we're talking about with the Collector 1 here, to get stuff out of his collection, it's limited to once per player, per phase. For Batroc, if you have like 6 resources, you can just remove all the threat from their low level, and then it's like no big deal, right? So then that makes him a lot easier. So yeah, he is not a challenging villain, but he's more difficult than these guys over here because of that secondary loss condition. Okay, next let's rank. Let's do Magneto. Because it's Magneto himself, I do want to put him in the Omega level threat, but we have to really be careful about these tiers, because I don't want to like mix the tiers. I think that Magneto goes in the top of difficult for me. Yeah, he is very, very difficult, but he's not near the level of the Omega level threats in the game. These guys are crazy up here, and Magneto, I think that a lot of people say this, and I also agree, he's fair. He is one of the most difficult challenges in the game of Marvel Champions, but he's fair. He gets like mana counters each time he attacks you, so he could get multiple encounter cards if those mana counters hit 3 on the main scheme, which is very difficult. So he's doing a lot of shenanigans on you. He's attacking, activating a lot, getting extra boost cards. He's difficult to rush down with the side schemes, and he also has like minions that have guard with the M-type Sentinels, and when they're defeated, they give him tough. So it's like a whole thing to go around. So yeah, he is a very challenging and epic scenario, but he is not on this level. Okay, talking about the Omega level threats, let's go ahead and put one of the 2 villains that I plan on having here. You guys probably already know what they are, but let's go ahead and put, which one should we do? Let's go ahead and put Ronan the Accuser. Ronan the Accuser, often touted as the most difficult villain in all Marvel Champions. He is an Omega level threat here. I mean, he he's not susceptible to stats lock, even though that is a strong way to play against him, because with the universal weapon he gains stalwart. And the thing is, there's a hero action where you can shuffle it back into the counter deck, take 2 damage, and deal yourself a face down counter card, but it goes back into the counter deck and it comes out as a boost effect, so you can easily get the stalwart back. There are a few heroes that can pop off the universal weapon and discard it. But if you're not playing one of those heroes, like, Shadowcat or like Vision, then the only way to get rid of it is with Sunfire. So you have to play an aggression. And if you're playing aggression, you're like, locked to like aggression cards and aggression strategies, right? So like that could be difficult as well. So like that's a whole thing. And if Fanaticism is the worst encounter guard in all Marvel Champions, that is in the Ronan Enchantress set. So like, Fanaticism, it has Surge, gives Ronan overkill and piercing. So he's like doing tons of damage. He already has very high attacks, so it's already hitting for a lot. The way that his main schemes work, he has 2 threat every single turn, like 2 threat per player. So like, at higher player counts, like at 4 players, he's adding 8 threat at least every single turn. So like you have to thwart for a lot to get rid of that. Yeah, he is very, very nasty. He has the Kree Commandship, dealing you an extra encounter every single turn with a permanent environment. So he does get easier at higher player counts, because you can flip down more safely, and recover. And also the hazard icon is not as bad at higher player counts, but because of that overkill and piercing and how hard that he hits, he is still that epic challenge and Omega level threat for sure. Yeah, okay. Let's rank another villain here. Let's rank Loki. So a lot of people say that Loki is like more difficult than Ronan. Some say he's more difficult than Magneto. Some say he's weaker than Magneto. For me personally, just my opinion, I think that Loki is not as strong as Magneto, but very, very close. And I think definitely if we're not, considering his recommended modules, he's definitely not as strong as Magneto. But with the recommended modules, he definitely goes up as well. He is a slog. And I think because he's such a slog, he can be a challenge. He is not susceptible to stats lock because he can easily flip his form and gain stalwart. There are 5 versions of Loki. They all have different abilities. Some of them have stalwart and like high scheme. Some of them have higher attack. Some of them have piercing. This one right here can't take damage if you have a side scheme in play, and he has a bunch of super nasty and annoying side schemes. He's very annoying for sure. And yeah, you definitely want to switch out his modules, because his modules force you to flip down to Alter Ego, because they give you like attachments where you can't do stuff unless you flip down to Alter Ego first to get rid of it, right? So Loki, you definitely don't want to play him with those recommended modules. And yeah, he is a strong villain for sure, just not the level of Magneto in my opinion. He's just more of a slog than Magneto, than like putting on as much pressure, right? Magneto puts on more scheme pressure and more attack pressure. Loki just has like way more hit points, especially on expert mode. He has 20 hit points. You have to beat 3 stages, so that's 60 life per player. That's a lot of life, especially at higher player counts. Like these games like go on forever. All right, next let's rank Red Skull. Red Skull is also a difficult villain, but where will he go in the difficult tier? I think that he's a lot more difficult at higher player counts, just because there's more threat, because it scales, per player. I think that the thing is, he is susceptible to stats lock, but I think that even with that, he goes in a difficult tier, because you want to spend resources to remove threat, clear out those side schemes, deal with like all the stuff that he's dealing with. Actually, at the same time, his recommended modules do make him more difficult, because you have that nasty Hydra guard minion that DJ Encounter when it hits defeat. I hate that minion. That's like one of the worst minions ever. But I think Red Skull is a difficult villain. I think I'll put him here in this tier, but where? Definitely around the Baron Zemo and Iron Man level. I think because he is susceptible to stats lock, I'm going to put him beneath these two. It's just that even if you stats lock him, I think he's still a good challenge. But if you do stats lock him, it makes him easier than these guys over here, who are not as easy to just stun and confuse. So yeah, Red Skull, I think that's a fair spot for him. Next, let's rank. Let's see, how is this list looking? I want to get more. The swingy list might not be that high if there's not that many swingy villains. Let's go and just do a super swingy villain right here. We're gonna rank the Hood. The Hood is one of the most swingy villains in the game. I think that he's second swingy right after Nebula. I despise the Hood because of his swinginess, depending on which modules that you have with him. I mean, he can be very, very difficult or like very, very easy. But even if you put difficult modules, if you stun and confuse him, I mean, that makes him very, very easy. He is very, very susceptible to Stas Lock. I almost want to put him here, but he's just so swingy that that will like overtake everything else. So amongst these villains here, he's just so swingy. So like, I think I'm just gonna leave him here, cause like I've had games where like he's just super duper easy, like tempo or like rush games or even build out games. If you're just like confusing him and stunning him, and he's not getting like very pressure inducing like encounter cards. But then like if he gets like surges or stuff that triggers foul play, I mean he goes like omega level threat if he's constantly triggering foul play every single turn. So like he just surges with foul play, like basically, right? So like I don't know. Maybe I'll put him in front of Ebony Maw. I think this is a fair spot. Yeah, I'll put him right here behind Collector 1, but in front of Ebony Maw because he can be a lot more swingy and also be easy. All right. Next, let's rank. Let me see. I kind of want to like fill out the list. So I want to find something else that's swingy, but I don't know if we have any more swingy villains here. Yeah, I'm not sure we have any more swingy guys. Let's just pick a random villain here. We'll do, you know what? Let's do Venom Goblin. We're just gonna do the other Omega level threat. He is, along with Ronan, you know, number 1 and number 2. Some would say 1A and 1B. Okay, so Venom Goblin, in my opinion, is more difficult than Ronan in multiplayer and at higher player counts because he scales, right? He deals encounter cards to everybody. He activates, you know, his ability is tied into his activation, right? You add, you move the active glider counter to like, you know, one of the 3 main schemes, the one with the least threat, and you trigger the special. So each time he activates, he triggers that. And at higher player counts, he activates more, so he triggers that even more, which makes him even worse, unlike Ronan, who does not scale with his activations. However, Ronan is more difficult in true solo, because the one player dealing with the hazard icon is like heroic mode, which is way worse. But I think I'm going to put overall, you know, counting for both multiplayer and for true solo, I'm going to put Venom Goblin behind Ronan the Accuser, simply for the fact of the advanced glider. The advanced glider is Venom Goblin's worst card, but that's not a part of his actual encounter set. That's his recommended module Goblin gear. So since this list is strictly for, you know, just the encounter set for the villain, we're not including the advanced glider for Venom Goblin's evaluation. He's still going to be an Omega level 3. He's still super duper challenging even without the advanced glider, because of everything he does. He's gliding all over, you know, Manhattan, placing threat everywhere. So much threat that you have to remove. Try and turn everything into like symbiotic environments, but without the advanced glider, I don't think that he's going to match over to Ronan's fanaticism, which is one of Ronan's cards itself. So I think that this is a fair spot here for Venom Goblin. Okay, next let's rank Absorbing Man. This guy is super duper easy. I think he goes in very weak. I'm gonna put him behind Risky Business and in front of Tower Defense. I mean, not much to him. He like changes like, you know, from like metal to ice to wood, but like you don't really feel it that much, and it doesn't really matter what form he's in. You can just kind of like do damage and like take him out. So it's not really that much of a challenge there. A pretty fairly straightforward and easy villain who doesn't really do too much outside the box. Next, let's rank Venom. So like Venom has steady on stage 2, and on his third and final stage, he has Stalwart. So like I almost want to put him in difficult. No, you know what? He goes in swingy. He goes like in the B tier here. I don't think he's difficult, but I think that he can be. And I think he can be easy. So let's put him here. We're going to put him, I'm going to put him around the hood. The hood can be more difficult or can be a lot easier. I think on average though, the hood is more easy than Venom. So the way that Venom works is that each time you damage him with like an attack, he puts a boost card on your identity. And he has ways to get overkill through the boost card revealing and giving him overkill. So that already makes him like a good challenge. But he can get so many boost cards. But he has so many boosts, or he has so many cards in his kit that are just boost effects and 0 boost icons. So like you can, like I've had like 10 boost cards for myself before. For Venom, and whenever he attacks me, he flips all those boost cards and ends up hitting me for like 4 or 5. I'm like, what the heck? I was planning on dying with this hit, but he didn't do a lot of damage. But he's swingy because he could hit for like 15 if he all gets like 2 plus, boost icons on all those cards. It just oftentimes it's going to be boost effects triggering, which also still do a lot of nasty things. And if he has overkill, with the boost or like before the boost, with his now we're angry, then like, that attachment, then like it's also like very swingy and you could do a lot of damage even when you block with the ally, right? So I think Venom he is definitely challenging for sure, but he can be swinging depending on how those boosts happen, or very easy if like you end up getting like boosts on the correct time, right? So like for example, if you're not chump blocking with ally and you're taking a hit to their face, if he just gets a bunch of boost effects, that's good. And if you're chump block with the ally and he gets like a lot of like boost effects, that's also good. Wait, that's also good? No, that's bad, right? Because if you're a chump block with ally, you want to just get a bunch of damage, but you trigger other effects on you instead of doing damage to the ally, which would have soaked a hit, right? So then like that's not good. And then obviously if he gets high boost icons and you block with the ally, that's really good. You got lucky. That's good swinginess. And then obviously if he's attacking you and all the boosts are like damage, then it's really bad because then you take a bunch of damage, right? So I think that's kind of why in my head he's a very swingy villain. Next, let's rank Drang. Drang is super duper easy. He's gonna go somewhere around here. I think he goes very, very weak. Let's put him around here. I'm gonna put him in front of Absorbman, but you could argue for him to be easier. The reason why it's so easy is because you have the Milano for the scenario. You have the Milano for a lot of scenarios like Nebula and whoops, why can't I put him here? You have the Milano for Nebula and Ronan as well, right? And for the Collector too. But the thing is, for a Nebula, the Milano is very taxing. And at multiplayer, it's only taxing for one player, so like she gets easier at higher player counts. But then like for Ronan, it's also very taxing because of the cards you want to cancel it with the Kree command ship, because you're doing 2 encounter cards, and as a first player interrupt, you can exhaust Milano and spend a resource to cancel it. But for Drang, the Milano usually just helps you, right? It's almost always just helpful for you. So like having that extra resource almost every single turn is super duper nice for this scenario. And other than that, I mean, he has like these bomb counters on his ship. They don't really do too much. It's just indirect damage. It's like not that big of a deal. So like yeah, he's pretty easy, and he gives you that Milano for you to like do other stuff and have just really big economy against him. Next, let's rank. Let's do M.O.D.O.K 1. He goes in difficult. He's a challenging villain for sure. I think he goes in front of Baron Zemo and behind Loki. So like this is a adventure type scenario as well. You have to climb through the Tower Citadel, clear off the side schemes similar to like Magneto, and after he is no longer worthy, then if you defeat Apocalypse, he is defeated. This guy, I think he scales pretty well at higher player counts, but I think he does get easier at higher player counts as well, just because you have more players to do damage to defeat the prelate minions. In true solo, the prelate minions only have 5 health, which is like easier, but then like you have to deal with the minions yourself, which is pretty difficult if you don't have like damage, right? Because it's not like 4 players and like someone will always have damage for you, because like so many players, at least someone's gonna have damage. But yeah, so I think that he's very, very challenging because you have to deal with those prelate minions, and you have to you cannot rush him down either, right? So yeah, and then on his stage 4, he has overkill, which is always tough. He has a way to get overkill, in his kit alone, and he has a way to get stalwart. So even if you're like trying to like stun and confuse him, he may just get that stalwart as a boost or as an encounter and just like negate all of that. And he has steady on stage 3, which is for extra mode, right? So he's definitely not going to go into B tier, definitely higher than that. Okay, next let's rank Hela. Hela is very similar to M.O.D.O.K 1. They're like almost the same thing, except she's missing a lot of the difficult stuff that he has in his scenario, and she's a lot more easy to game. You can just like kind of build it on stage 1 and then just burst her down after you're already built out. So I think that I think she's not a big challenge, guys. She's gonna go number 1 though in here. She may have dropped for me, but yeah, she's pretty easy to game. She is not a big challenge. She scales. You have a bunch of players that's in individual display, but even for a hero like Cable, she's not that much of a challenge for Cable, right? Like Cable has a more difficult time taking on like Ronan than he does with Hela, even though Hela like strictly counters him. Like she's just not strong enough, right? Like if she was like a difficult villain and she countered Cable, like she would actually like be a menace. But because she's like not a big challenge, even though she counters the mechanics of another hero, she's still like pretty easy for the hero to take down. Next, let's rank Loki God of Lies, just because we just land right here. Loki God of Lies, I think, let's zoom in here. I think he's susceptible to Stasok. right? No, this is not this version. There's another version of Loki. So you're not actually attacking this version. You have like another version of Loki, like Loki the Rascal, and like these other like images of Loki. And then you have to defeat those images to like get these counters, which will do damage on the main body. So Loki got allies right here is the main body of him, and I think that he's not difficult for sure. He's gonna go around here. Um, I'm gonna put him in challenging, but susceptible to status lock. Um, yeah, he's a challenge. He's gonna go around here. Um, he has a lot of minions, but then like you get a lot of benefits. I know. I think I'm gonna put him behind because the thing is he has these environments, and the environments help you out a whole ton. And you get the environments by like defeating a lot of the cards in its encounter, like clearing off side schemes and minions. You get those things, and it's like on-demand triggers where you can like remove a counter from the environment to like get extra damage to your attacks, or like get extra threat move, or like generate resources, right? So like that just helps the player out way too much. I think without that he would be a lot more fun and challenging, but with that, he's just gonna go, still challenging, but in the bottom of the B tier here. Let's go ahead and rank the other scenario in Trickster Takeover, which is the Enchantress. She's definitely more challenging than Loki, so at least here. Does she go in difficult? I think she does, because she does have steady here on stage 3, and then yeah, so whenever she's revealed, you can't push her, you can't flip her, or you can't, burst her down in one go whenever you reveal her stage 3, because whenever it's revealed, you put the set aside feature of the spirit into play, then place 4 additional threat on it, and with that side scheme in play, Enchantress can't take damage. So you have to burst that side scheme down, and then also burst down her damage. You're gonna get charmed. Yeah, I think that she goes in the difficult tier. I almost want to drop her down to challenging here. But I think that this is a fair spot for difficult. I may move that later though. But yeah, she places the charm counters on your charm card, and whenever there's 5 counters, which is inevitable, then you get charmed, and then like she gets like a bunch of extra effects. She adds a lot of threat to her scheme whenever you're charmed, because she puts threat there instead of adding charm counters. And then whenever you're charmed, you also have to trigger like this forced action every single turn, which is a new mechanic for her scenario. And sometimes they can be useful, like to get you ready for something. And sometimes they can be really, really bad if the effect is not that good. Okay, let's rank Ultron. Ultron's difficult. He's in the core set, but he's still one of the most challenging villains to this day. I think he goes around here. For sure weaker than Loki, but like around this APOC 1 level, where does he go? The thing is, I almost want to put Ultron here because he is very susceptible to status lock, right? Like his ability is tied into every single time he activates, he's gonna give you like a drone minion, right? So like or like, every single time he attacks you, I mean, right? He's gonna get drone minion. So you stun him, then like it's fine, like you won't get as much drone minions. But at the same time, he still can do other stuff. So I don't think he's as susceptible to status lock. I think he goes in difficult here, because he really powers on those drone minions on you. And I'm gonna put him behind APOC 1 just because if you status lock Ultron, he does become a little bit more easy, right? So yeah, Ultron is a very fun scenario, especially at higher player counts. There's so many drones all around the table, but because you have players that might have like AoE, type of cards, I think he gets easier at higher player counts as well. I mean, there's more drones, but then like there's players that can like really deal with it. So I mean, I think it's pretty balanced actually at higher player counts. Okay, next let's rank Mansion Attack. Mansion Attack. Oh, I think Mansion Attack actually goes in swingy. Yeah, it's another swingy. There's a lot of swinging scenarios here in Marvel Champions. I think it goes in front of Ebony Maw and behind the hood here. So basically, depending on which one of these villains that you get, there's 4 villains in Mansion Attack. Some of them are really bad, like Toad. Each time he activates, he'll make like discard a card from your hand. Some of them are not as bad. Like I think Blob, he just stuns you if he damages you. So if you chop up with an ally, like you're good to go. You will never get stunned. But for like Toad, you'll always discard that card even if you chop up with ally. So you're losing a lot of economy, especially on turn 1. So depending on the order that you get these villains, they could be easy or hard. And depending on the main scheme effects, it could be like easy or hard, right? Like some of them like give every character like Retaliate 1. Some of them gives like minions and allies toughness. So depending on the type of object you're building, right, it could go swingy or not be swingy. So then this is a fair spot to put Mansion Attack. Next, let's evaluate Zola. Zola for me goes, he's difficult for sure. I think he's more difficult than Red Skull. He's more difficult than Iron Man. The thing is, Zola, is also very susceptible to stats lock, so I think I'm just gonna leave him here. He can really swarm you with like these mid-range minions. They're not like big minions, but they're also not small. They're like mid-range with like tough, which is like very, very annoying. So like he can definitely be a menace with his test count. He also like puts a lot of minions on you, and he puts like upgrades to those minions. But you can just stats lock Zola. So I think like he still doesn't go here though in the B tier, because like even with the stats lock, the minions are still quite a nuisance. So I think that difficult is a fair spot here for Zola. All right, next let's rank Mr. Sinister. I love this scenario, but we're not talking about how much I like it. He goes. Oh man, the thing is, I want to put him like around here, like because you can stats lock him depending on which form he's in, right? If he doesn't have steady, and but you do have to add threat each time you put a stats card on him. And if he has steady, if he got super strength, then like, yeah, I'm gonna put him in difficult actually. I think difficult is a good spot. I'm putting him, I think he's dropped for me, so I'm putting him at the end of difficult here. So basically Sinister, he's very fun, very thematic. You have 3 modules, but it's required for him, right? So I will be evaluating him, with these modules. So you have the telepathy, you have a super strength, and you have flight. And he randomly starts off with one of them, right? If you start with flight, I think that's the worst one because then his attacks have overkill. Super strength, he has steady, so you have like a stun status build. It's going to be messed up if he gets that super strength. And also when you put a stats card on him, you have to add threat to the main scheme. So you don't want to put a lot of stats cards on him, even though it does kind of like neuter him. It's just like you have to remove threat at the same time whenever you do that, right? So that could be also very annoying. And then if you get telepathy, then he has like extra scheme and he has like retaliate 1, so that could be annoying as well if you have a lot of small instances of damage. So yeah, I think that depending on which one you get, he could be easier or more difficult, but like he's always going to be like a decent challenge. I think the Hope Summers makes him easier, but on your final main scheme stage, on stage 3B, he's only attacking Hope, so you have to defend those hits with your hero, which does make it more difficult as well. So I think that this is a good spot here for Sinister. Okay, we are almost done here, I think. We have like 5, 10. You know what? There's still too many to count. Let's rank the Wrecking Crew. Not much to say about these guys. They're pretty easy. I think they go... Oh, it's just somewhere around here. I mean, you can really argue any spot here. There's 4 villains here, but there's not much ways for them to defeat you if you're in Alter Ego and you just allow them to scheme or something like that. So, yeah, we'll just put them right here. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty hard to lose against. Maybe we'll put them behind Absorb Man. And then next we have Unus. Unus is... The thing is, he does kind of deter chump blocking with Gene Pool, but the thing is, even with that, he's not that bad. You can just stats lock him as well. And I mean, if you have enough threat on Gene Pool, then I believe that he actually gains Stalwart, right? 6 threat on Gene Pool. So you do want to keep that down. But like, I mean, I think it's pretty easy to manage a threat, right? Like with Apocalypse 1, he's recommended to play that, with Gene Pool. Like with another scenario with Gene Pool, it's a lot more difficult than with this guy with Gene Pool. So I think I put him, I mean, Gene Pool is required for him. So like, I think I put him behind Hela. Yeah, because like, you don't want to always be blocked with allies, but thing is he doesn't hit that hard anyway, so like, it's not a big deal. But I do like the Gene Pool mechanic with him, and Gene Pool is integrated, in his actual kit, not just a module for him, because it's required whenever you're playing this scenario. All right, next let's evaluate. Let's just do Rhino. The easiest, not the easiest, the first scenario in the game, the most basic one from the core set. He is actually not very weak because I'm evaluating True Soul as a part of this as well, right? So I think that at higher player counts he's a lot more fair, but even then at higher player counts he still has access to overkill and he can hit very hard. It's just easy to flip down against him and like recover. But in True Solo, flipping down is tough against Rhino because he only has 1 main scheme stage, and at 7 per player threat, in True Solo, I mean it's gonna flip immediately if he gets like in advance and you have bad luck. So he goes. I think he goes. Let's put him. I don't know. I think he might have went up for me recently. So we're also including multiplayer, right? So I think he goes right here behind Unus. I think that multiplayer drops him down a little bit for me, right? If it was just True Soul, he'd probably maybe in the top here of not a big challenge because you can still like stats lock him and then like he does nothing. But yeah, including multiple, you don't even have to stats lock him, and he probably will not scheme out on you. So I think this is a good spot here for the bare bones run. He just hits hard, but really doing nothing else. He schemes pretty low. All right, next let's rank. Oh, Stryfe is another very swingy villain. He goes in swingy tier. So he's B tier because he can be like maybe not Omega level threat, just like super difficult. Actually, I think he might actually be able to be Omega level if you get like the worst psionic attachments. Or it's very weak if you just like burst him down, like rush him down, right? So swingy is a good spot. I'm gonna put him. Let's put him behind the hood and in front of Mansion Attack here. So Stryfe, I mean, I dislike this villain with a passion because he has a lot of things going on. He kind of has a tempo going on against you, so you don't want to like just build out slowly against him because on that first main scheme stage, it's gonna inevitably flip. So you can't just take your time building out. You have to remove that threat, and then after you clear that off, then you are able to defeat Stryfe on the side scheme. I mean, Strife's grasp, and then that also advances the main scheme stage. The reason why he goes in swingy is because he starts the game off by giving you a random psionic attachment, and these vary so much, right? Some of them just give you like -1 attack, -1 scheme. If you like attacked and schemed this phase or something like that, then you just get rid of it, which is like super easy. Some of them it's like all of your like allies and upgrades like cost +2 more to play. So you get that on turn 1, you basically can't play allies or upgrades, or else you can't do anything else with your turn. And like to get rid of you have to like exhaust like allies and upgrades that you control as like an alter ego action or something like that. It's like just a bunch of like bullcrap shenanigans, which is like really messy to deal with, especially in true solo. But at higher player counts, some players will get the easier ones, some players will get the hard ones, and you can like help your other friends, deal with it. So then he gets easier at higher player counts. But he can also be challenging if you guys all get like the super nasty ones, right? Like if you're doing like 2 players and like both of you guys get like the nasty like upgrade silent attachment, like I mean that's just terrible. So yeah, he's very swingy. He can be very hard depending on which ones you get, and he can be very easy. He also like does really annoying things with like upkeep, where like he'll like mess with your hand size and he like makes all your cards cost more to play. So yeah, just a lot of like shenanigans here with Stryfe. I don't really like him, but in terms of his difficulty, I think that he's very swingy. Next, let's rank Taskmaster. I think he's dropped for me in terms of difficulty. He's not a big challenge though, so let's put him. I think we put him around Crossbones. I mean, the thing is, you clear off allies that help you out. You can use like stats lock him. I like that whenever you flip forms though, he like does damage to you, which is cool. But like, he brings out these side schemes, and if you clear him, you get like allies to help you out, and those allies are very powerful. I think we put him. I'm gonna bump up a little bit. Let's put him. Let's put him here behind Rhino. Yeah, if you don't get those side skins to get the allies, I think he can be more difficult. But if you get those, then he becomes like easier, right? So yeah, I think that's a good spot for him. All right, who are we ranking next? Let's rank Thanos. Thanos, I mean, he's difficult. He's one of the toughest challenges in the game. Let's go around here. I think I'm going to put Thanos in front of Ultron, just because Thanos cannot be stats locked because he comes with like the permanent, printed stalwart. And is Thanos more difficult than APOC1? I think I'll put him in front of APOC1. Just because with Infinity Gauntlet, you can't block with the activation. He's going to be activating a lot. He triggers the Infinity Stones. It is a required module with Thanos, so I think that that's a fair spot for him. He's definitely not like the Loki Magneto tier. Loki also has Infinity Gauntlet, by the way. So, yeah, I think Thanos goes behind Loki and in front of Apocalypse 1. Definitely still a very epic and awesome difficult challenge, though. So I really like the scenario a lot. He's just not as difficult as these guys, but still a great challenge in itself. Next, let's rank Captain America from Civil War. I'm just gonna put him. He goes back and forth with Iron Man for me. They're like different, but they're like similar in terms of difficulty. I think Captain America does not put on a lot of pressure, other than a Super Soldier Serum, so he's very easy to build out against. The thing is, if he gets a Super Soldier Serum, then like, he's same with you with Overkill, which is like very nasty. So like I think for now, I still have Iron Man as a little bit more difficult with those tech attachments. But like, if Captain America constantly hits hard with like the Overkill with Super Soldier Serum, then he can be the more difficult one. So depending on that, he's easier or harder than Iron Man. If he doesn't get that a lot, then he's easier. So I just put him right here, right behind Iron Man. Okay, I really want to fill out this here. So let's do Sinister Six over here. So Sinister Six, I actually put them in challenging here, particularly for expert mode, because a lot of their cards actually really like how this was designed. A lot of their cards, there's like, you know, the Sinister Six as the villains, right? And you start off with two of them, and they can like all come into play, or you can like eliminate all of them so that none of them are in play. And the way for you to win is adventure type scenario. You have to clear up all the threat from light at the end. And yeah, you have to remove all the threat there. And basically with these guys, each time you knock out one of them, you can remove threat from light at the end. But since there's all these villains there, what was I gonna say? A lot of their effects, the cards that they have, it would be like in expert mode, this card like gains this additional effect. And same with light at the end for expert mode or for ambush, the effect that triggers each time you like, you know, clear off all the villains and they're supposed to activate. Ambush has an additional effect which adds extra threat if you're playing on expert mode. So for expert mode, I think that they are challenging, but they are very, very susceptible to Stas Lock. If you stun and confuse like the one that's going to activate on you, then it won't activate. You can easily just chump block with allies as well. So like that'll prevent the active counter from moving too. So yeah, I think that they're challenging for expert mode, but very susceptible to Stas Lock. Next, let's evaluate. Do we have any more swingy scenarios here? I really want to fill this out, but I think we might be done with the swingy guys. Ooh, is Mysterio swingy? I don't know. Mysterio, what is he doing? I mean, he's shuffling his encounter cards into your deck. You could get like a bunch of encounter cards against him, but the thing is, they don't really do that much. I think he's gonna go in not a big challenge. I don't think he's that difficult. He goes, I think, in front of Unus and behind Hela. And like you can very easily Stas Lock him as well. He shuffles these encounter cards into your deck, and then whenever you withdraw them, you do them to yourself as a face-on encounter card instead. But the thing is, they don't really do that much, is a thing, right? So he's still easy to deal with. Yeah, I think that he's not that much of a challenge, but he's very thematic to Mysterio and very annoying, right? So he like deters you a lot, but he's not actually like putting that much pressure on your hero. He's not scheming and like hitting for like that hard, in my experience. Next, let's rank Sentinels, Project Wide Awake. This scenario, these guys have a star. Yeah, they have star, which is like very cool. So I like that a lot. Are they difficult? I think they are difficult. Yeah, they're gonna go in the A tier here. And let's see. We're in the A tier. So the thing with Project Wide Awake is that you can't chump block against a scenario because they steer your ally forever. So then I put them. I don't, has this went up for me a lot? Okay, I'm gonna put him here in front of Ultron actually. This is quite a challenging scenario. I think I might have put this up a lot more since my last ranking. But yeah, I mean, with your zero tolerance side scheme, it's a permanent side scheme that you have to use, you know, with this encounter set. So even though it is a module, we are going to evaluate with it because it's required. And each time you an ally is defeated by anything that's not consequent damage, they get forever taken, and that also presents a loss condition for the player. I think this scenario is easier at higher player counts, but he does activate more though, so you have to like prevent that. You know, you have to not chump block, but you have more breathing room on the threat, right? The threat is so small in Shu Solo. So since he's easier at multiplayer, I kind of want to drop him down, but I think this is a good spot for him. Yeah, he is a very, very challenging villain because of that. Anything that deters chump blocking, I think is very good because chump blocking is one of the strongest strategies in Marvel Champions. And then you can't just like Stas lock this guy. So yeah, he is a very difficult villain for sure. Next we have Master Mode, who's supposed to be thematically more difficult than like a Ram Sentinel, but it's actually quite easier. I'm gonna put him in not a big challenge here. And put him. I'm gonna put him behind Rhino. And the thing is with this guy, I mean, he actually can be challenging because there are a lot of tough Sentinel minions in his encounter set. But the thing that makes him so easy is that you have this Magneto ally who like helps you out, and you start off the game with this Magneto ally, and he's like crazy stats, like high hit points, high thwart, high attack, and after he defeats Sentinels, he can like heal as well, so you can like Vulture on him. Like he just goes crazy, right? So like you can keep the Magneto ally in play for a very long time, right? Or like forever, basically, right? So yeah, I think that because of that, this makes the scenario a lot more easy because you have such a strong ally helping you out, and the ally counters the Sentinels as well, which is thematic that Magneto is like able to take down Sentinels pretty easily. But like because he's able to heal whenever he takes them out, I mean, he makes the scenario a lot easier. And this scenario is really about getting a bunch of Sentinels out and swarming you with those Sentinel minions, right? So I think it's not a big challenge at all. All right, next let's rank Sandman. Sandman. I think I almost want to put him as swingy, actually. Is he swingy enough to go in swingy? Does his gams have enough variance? No, I don't think I think I'm gonna put him in not a big challenge actually. I'm put him in front of Mysterio. So the thing with him is like I mean you can obviously just stats lock him as well, right? To stun or confuse him. He does have overkill on his final stage and he does indirect damage on his stage too. So like that is like you can't just chump block with allies, which is pretty cool. But for indirect damage, you just place it on your allies, like knock them out anyways. And then he's like quicksand, right? Like he's constantly milling that encounter deck, placing acceleration tokens, which is like very fun and thematic. But I think that overall, even with that, a lot of his encounter cards just fizzle, right? It's just like a minion that doesn't do anything, or just like a card that doesn't really do anything right now. It just like mills more from encounter deck. So it's not really dealing like direct pressure to you, right? Like an activation or something like that. It's just kind of like just doing stuff that doesn't really affect you right now. So it's easy to just like build out against and like take out, right? So yeah, I think overall he's not that much of a challenge. Next we have Dark Beast. Dark Beast could be swingy, but I think overall he's not actually that much of a challenge. Let's put him also in not a big challenge. He has like 3 modules that it's required, like Genosha and like those environments there. And then like the Savage Lands, and depending on which one you get, it has different effects. But overall, just Beast himself is not like crazy. He can trade the special there if he attacks you, but you just want to stay down alter ego against him, right? Force whenever he attacks you, yeah, he trades the special on the setting environment, but if you're just in alter ego and you let him scheme, it's not that big of a deal. He has like a lot of breathing room on his threat as well. So yeah, I think not a big challenge is a fair spot for him. But then where do we go here? I think Master Mode. Magneto is. I mean, for sure, I think he's using Rhino though. So somewhere over here, maybe like in front of M.O.D.O.K and behind Collector 2, I think. No, let's put him in front of Collector 2. Okay. All right, we are almost done, guys. We got 9 more left. Okay, we're almost there. So let's rank Spiral. She's a difficult one, I think. No, I mean, but she can be challenging. Is she swingy? So the way that she works is that you have to corner her. And then when you corner, she flips over to her corner side where you can actually do damage to her, right? On her escape side right here, each time she activates against you, she is going to scheme instead, and she can't take damage in this form. So like that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so she doesn't actually only schemes in this form. But I think I'm going to put her in swingy because depending on your luck with her, you can just keep on cornering her over and over again based on RNG because you have like this show deck. And then if you shuffle it and corners on top, you just constantly corner over and over again, which can be good and bad depending on if you want to corner her or you don't want to corner her. But then like if you want to try to build out and just like let her scheme, because she can actually hit you quite hard if she gets like her swords, right? So like if you just let her scheme and then now you're ready to actually remove that from the main scheme because you cannot remove that from the main scheme if she's on this side, you need to corner her. But then if you have battle and corner is at the bottom of the show deck, then like maybe it takes a lot of work to actually corner her, and then like she builds on a lot of threat and schemes out on you. So I think that she actually goes in swingy here. I'm gonna put her in front of Mission Attack and behind Stryfe, because like Stryfe can just be swingy for like way harder. And a Spiral, I think that she's never gonna ever be like Omega level or like super difficult, but she can be very challenging here. So yeah, I think this is a good spot here for Spiral. Next, let's rank in Sabah Nur. So this villain, I think this is a difficult villain. But I think he's weaker than Enchantress. Actually, he's actually around, like right around this level here for me. Going even up to the Civil War villains and Baron Zemo. It's variance though, but I think he goes difficult, but he just varied depending on like the games and like what form you're in. Some games are so easy. Some games are more difficult. I think for me, I mean, he has access to overkill. If he's in, this Balmor form here, he schemes for a lot in the other form, in Cyberpath form. He has Stalwart in his giant form. You know what? I'm gonna put him up. I don't know if he's gotten more difficult for him recently, but I think I'll bump him up here to like, I don't know, above Zemo. Let's put him above Zemo actually. Yeah, so he goes right here for me, because like depending on which form he's in, you can actually stats lock him, but if he's in giant form, then you can't. If you're blocked with the eye and he's in the overkill form, that stinks. He can do a lot of damage. If he's scheming a lot, he can add a lot of threat on all the schemes as well. He can be super nasty in multiplayer if he switches the side platform a lot and just adds threat to like every single side scheme, like constantly. That can be brutal. So I think I almost kind of want to bump even higher up than Ultron because of that multiplayer factor. Yeah, let's actually bump up a little bit more. But I think overall Sentinel is going to be more difficult than in Sabah Nur. But yeah, he is also a very difficult challenge. All right, we are almost done here, guys. Next, let's rank Black Widow. I think she's challenging, but she is very susceptible to stats. Like you can easily just stun and confuse her, and she really won't do much against you. But she goes high up here because she can add so much threat. She's like very high scheme. She accumulates, more than one threat, per turn on her main schemes as well. Only one main scheme stage. If you lose that, you lose a game. I think she like adds threat, yeah, on her one reviews as well for stage 2 and stage 3. So she's putting so much threat on you. Yeah, I think if you remove all threat though, her force interrupt becomes a lot weaker. Because she won't trigger preps on you, so you kind of want to game her that way. But like overall, I mean, she's adding a lot of threat. She is a good challenge, but at the same time, there's ways to defeat her, right? So she's not like crazy. So I think that's a fair spot for her. Okay, next let's rank Sabretooth. I think Sabretooth, I think he's challenging. Oh man, he has retaliate and toughness, but you can't just stats lock him. He has a way to get stalwart too in his kit, but like you can just paint that off as well. It's not like something that always comes back like a universal weapon. So I think he goes in this B tier here for me because he's constantly healing. Each time he activates, you discard top card in the counter deck and he heals the boost icons. So you want to build out, defeat a stage, his first stage, and then defeat that second stage also in one go, or else he heals a lot and he could be a menace, right? So like rush down builds are pretty annoying against or pretty difficult to pilot here against him. Same like temple builds, you really want to do like a long build out here. So like for me, he's easy because I always love building it out like slowly. I think he goes. I mean, Robert Kelly can be challenging as well. I think he goes. Let's put him somewhere in this range, guys. I think it's a wash. I'm gonna put him here behind Klaw, but you can definitely make the case for him being like higher than these guys here. Yeah, I mean, some games he's easier, some games he's hard, depending on what you do. Yeah, I think overall he's not that bad though, right? You just like build out, burst him down, and then build out again, and then like burst down that like final stage. So yeah, all right, let's rank Captain Marvel next. Another villain here from Civil War. She also goes in a B tier. She's not as susceptible to stats lock. You can stats lock, the stage 3, but not stage 4 because it's steady. So I think for her, I think she's more difficult than these guys though, because she can get overkill on her attack, right? Yeah, with the energy channel, whenever that blows up, she attacks you, it's gonna have overkill. So like that could be difficult to deal with. So I think I put her more difficult than these guys. Oh man, this is also a wash here. She's also like just in this tier. I think I'm gonna put her in front of Juggernaut right there and behind Black Widow for her difficulty. Yeah, I mean, basically her thing is just each time you do damage to her, then she gets a counter on the energy channel, and then whenever that explodes, she attacks you. And then she has overkill for the attack. But the thing is, you can just let that accumulate, like, because there's no like limit. You just let it accumulate to like so many counters, and then like you plan out to where you can actually take the hit from her before like she attacks you. So that's how you kind of like can just like game her. So she's not like super difficult, but she is definitely a good challenge. All right, next let's rank. Oh, this is gonna be different, a difficult one. Let's do Kang the Conqueror. He scales for higher player counts. I actually think that he's fairly similar. Like, so he's definitely not like he's higher than this tier right here. So for sure he's at least swingy. I think he goes here. He's pretty easy to just stats lock, right? Yeah, you can just stats lock Kang. I'm tempted to put him here because of like multiplayer. I may bump him up. You know what? Let's put him here for now. I'm gonna put him in front of Mojo. He can be very, very difficult for sure. Yeah, Mojo's dropped for me a little bit. I found him more easy these days. I played him more. But yeah, Kang. So like he's very epic. He's a very epic scenario. He has essentially 3 villain stages, right? So you have your first stage, and then every single time he attacks you, you can choose to give him +2 for attack, or you can give him, or you can add threat on the main scheme. So like I like that like decision making right there, and that can be challenging because like adding threat or giving him extra attack if you're not blocking the ally can be difficult. And then after you defeat that first stage, then he like randomly gives you like a random king, and in multiplayer he splits all the game areas up so like you can't help out your friends, and after you either like lose a threat or like defeat that second king stage, you guys all unite back for this third and final king stage right here, where it has a similar effect to that first king stage. So yeah, he's challenging. He has ways to access overkill too with the future weapon. So like, yeah, I mean that's pretty nasty. He has a way. He like is a long snare. He's a grind as well. I think he goes in difficult tier. We're gonna put him up here. Yeah, and I think he's even harder than Sinister and Enchantress. Yeah, especially higher player counts. Like he does so much of so many things on the board. The obligations he's forcing you to flip down as well. Man, I have a lot more respect for Kang these days. Let's put him all the way up over here. I think I'm gonna put him. I'm putting him behind Ultron. Yeah, there are games like when I first started playing him, he was very easy, but he's been getting more difficult now. So I think this is a fair spot for him. He's definitely a difficult villain for sure and belonging in this tier, but you can definitely argue where he goes in the tier. All right, guys, 3 villains left. We're gonna do Citizen V next. This guy, he has elite Thunderbolt minions, but overall, I mean, I think he is challenging. Status lock. I mean, I kind of want to put him in not a big challenge. I don't think he's swinging though. So he's either challenging but like susceptible, or like at the bottom here, or is like maybe at the top ish here. I think we'll put him in challenging here just because there's so many Thunderbolt minions and some of them can be nasty. And in multiplayer, I mean, some of them do very nasty things, like Batroc, each time he engages someone else. I think that Citizen V is definitely, the Thunderbolt scenario is more interesting and more difficult at higher player counts for sure, with all the swapping that the minions do because they engage you and some have different effects whenever that happens. And in True Soul, he's like a little bit more straightforward. So I think that he is challenging, but you can status lock him. You can status lock those Elite Thunderbolts. And yeah, he's not really going to do anything past that. He doesn't really have overkill or anything like that. Yeah, so. But since you do have to defeat those Elite Thunderbolts as well, I think that's what makes him the challenge. Because it's not just about defeating him, you have to defeat enough Elite Thunderbolts to where you fulfill the requirements, and then you can defeat him. Alright, next let's rank M.O.D.O.K here. M.O.D.O.K's going to go in the B tier. I think he's going to go... I think he's harder than Widow and harder than the 4 Horsemen. He's going to go right here, right behind Mojo. So the thing with the M.O.D.O.K scenario is that you have to gain ratings counters, right? It's like a Coliseum battle. And each time M.O.D.O.K attacks and damages any character, including an ally, so you chump block with an ally and he damages it, he gets ratings counters. So essentially, you cannot chump block with allies in this scenario because there's no way to remove those ratings counters for M.O.D.O.K. And if he gets more ratings counters than you, then he wins. If you get your ratings counters and the crowd cheers for you, then you win. So like, just the fact that he deters chump block, I think makes him very challenging. He doesn't have a lot of threat threshold on the main scheme, but if he schemes that you don't lose, he just adds range counters, right? He gets the crowd cheering for him. So yeah, you need to defeat M.O.D.O.K and like to clear off his side schemes and clear off his minions to get the range counters for the player. So yeah, definitely a fun and challenging scenario for sure. Lastly, we have She-Hulk here, the newest scenario from the Synthezoid Smackdown scenario pack. And where does she go? She for sure is going to be at least B tier in front of these guys, like Vision and them. But is she strong enough to make it in the A tier, the difficult tier, guys? So like, once again, she's not super susceptible to status lock because of the steady on the stage 4. She has a similar thing to Captain America, but Captain America is like easily more challenging than She-Hulk. I don't know why. She-Hulk has like super duper nasty cards, and if you flip from alter ego to hero form, she like hits you for damage as well. She gains overkill with her superhuman strength. It's the exact same thing as Captain America's Super Shield Serum, but she actually starts with it. So there's a 100% chance that you'll get it like, on turn 1, and that first hit hits super hard. But the thing is, in multiplayer, she gets easier because she only does that on the first hit. So like all the other players, if you guys have like 4 players all in hero form, on turn 1, she'll do 1 damage to everyone when you flip, but then like she'll hit everyone else without overkill, right? So like, she scales not that great. So I think that she actually goes in a challenging tier for me. Even though she's not as susceptible to stats lock, she's not like super duper crazy difficult. So I'm gonna put her um, somewhere around here, guys. I think she's more difficult than Captain Marvel. Like her Gamma Slam is nasty, guys. She had this card like the highest cost like upgrade or support or whatever that like you control, and like you have to add threats to main scheme. It's essentially a scheme activation. But like I don't know why her cards look very nasty on paper, but she does not play out as difficult as you would expect. But she still is a challenge. So I think that this is where I'm gonna land here with She-Hulk. Uh these guys just get stats locked to death though. Um yeah, I'm gonna put She-Hulk right here, behind M.O.D.O.K and Mojo in front of the 4 Horsemen. And all right, guys, that is the list. We are done here. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit. Let's make this a little bit wider, and we can make this list a little bit bigger here because we are finished here. Okay, so what we got going on for the S tier, we have just 2 villains. I think that that is where these guys belong. They're definitely like a tier above every other villain here, including like Magneto and Loki. These guys cannot be compared to anyone over here. Magneto and Loki do kind of have like a sizable gap in front of Thanos, but there are games where like these villains here can be more difficult than Magneto and Loki. So I think that they fit here in the A tier. We have a pretty big A tier as well. So a lot of difficult, challenging villains. A lot of the new scenarios are challenging here with Iron Man, Captain America, and Enchantress, but they're just not like in this like upper echelon of the A tier or like close to S tier. But they are also challenges in their own right. I'm liking how this looks. For the B tier, is going to be both of these right here are the B tier here for me, right? Because Swingy I think belongs in the B tier. So we have obviously the biggest tier is going to be the B tier because that's kind of like the average out there. And yeah, I'm liking, there are quite a bit of swing scenarios in Marvel James, so I'm liking how this looks. We have 8, no, we have 9 swing scenarios, and these guys definitely are pretty swingy, especially Nebula right here. And then these are like, your mid-tier level villains, not like crazy difficult, but like not like easy here. And then these guys are like more easy, easy to game, like Hela. Rhino just super straightforward. These guys don't really have that much, pressure on you with their encounter cards. And we have the very, very weak, the 5 weakest scenarios in the game right there. Yeah, I am liking how this list looks, guys. Let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think about my list? Did you agree or disagree? I hope this video is informative for new players trying to figure out which villains that they want to play. I hope you guys liked this video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.